Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for taking your time to finish your first day of Ignite with us. Are y'all having fun so far? That was actually a lot better than I expected, so I'm not going to do the thing where we make you do it a second time. We have a packed agenda today, only 45 minutes to cover it. We're going to talk about the continuum of agents and low-code assets that you need to govern and secure in your organization. We're going to talk a bit about how you can establish a security baseline over those, how you can govern all of those assets, as well as how you can bring operational excellence to your low-code practice in your organization. And then we're going to spotlight one of the coolest, I know I'm biased, low-code deployments on the planet, Microsoft's. Now, really important note, we're going to talk fast, we're going to show a lot of demos, but at the end of the day, we are here for all of y'all, okay? I grew up in Kentucky, so I can say y'all. And so, if you follow the QR code on the screen, that will take you to our Power AMA, where you can ask me anything. Thank you. It is 5:15, so I'll cut you a break on that, okay? So everybody follow that QR code so that you can ask us great questions like what hair products I used this morning. Actually, ask Shawn. He has better hair than I do. Anyway, with that, let's talk a bit about the agent continuum. Now, when we think about agents, how many of you are tired of hearing about agents today? Okay, sorry, we're going to talk about them some more. So when we think about Copilot Studio, Copilot Studio is how we extend the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem. And when we think about how we do this, you can do this, of course, through the embedded agent builder directly within Microsoft 365 BizChat, and you can also build more advanced agents as well through Microsoft Copilot Studio. And the thing is, these agents, they land on a spectrum from simple to advanced. Makes sense, right? We have agents that we ask questions. They retrieve data for us. And when we think about it, like at the end of the day, these agents are really kind of like a saved prompt, right? They're very simple. They're very basic. We then have in the middle, we have agents that can perform tasks on our behalf. And then at the far right, we have autonomous agents that do our work for us. Maybe next year an agent will be presenting to you instead of me. Its jokes will almost certainly be better. And so the thing is, as we look at this continuum of agents, we see that there's varying degrees of complexity, right? When we think about the agents that you build through the agent builder, they connect to Microsoft Graph. They read data only. They can only be published to Microsoft 365. And so as a result, they're pretty much governed by default, governed out of the box. When we go to the far right of the continuum, when we have agents that can connect to any of the thousands of connectors that we have within the Power Platform ecosystem, when these are performing tasks automatically for you, or when these agents can be published to a bunch of different channels, this is when advanced governance capabilities become paramount. And this challenge that we see with agents is not unique to agents. It's the same set of challenges that we have aimed to address for you across the Power Platform, whether we're talking about apps, agents, automations, or other things. And of course, our solution to how you manage these things at scale has been through managed environments. Now, as we've been through our journey, how many of you have heard of managed environments before? Okay, awesome. I love seeing those hands. And so the thing is, as we've talked to many of you and talked to your organizations about deploying managed environments, what we found is there's a set of common questions that come up from different people in your organization. How many of y'all work in like the security part of your organization? Maybe you roll up through the CISO? Cool. How many of you are in your CIO's organization? How many of y'all are like in an operations director type role? Okay, awesome. And so the thing is, a lot of times when we talk to you folks that are in the CISO's organization, you're always asking us like, hey, how do I make sure my data is protected from threats? How do I make sure that data is not being exfiltrated? How do I stay compliant and how do I limit risk? When we talk to folks in the CIO's office, they're always asking us, how do I establish the guardrails so that people build solutions that are well governed from day one? How do I get visibility and insight into what's going on? How do I have insights? How do I understand cost? And how do I drive greater ROI? And then in the ops director bucket, we always say, hey, what does it mean for me to run tier 1 applications at enterprise scale? How do I know when things aren't working well? How do I see to it that I have awesome change management over these applications? And so, going back to what we talked about earlier, we've been talking about managed environments together for a long time. And we think that by managing an environment, that is the best way that you can secure it, govern it, and operate it. And so today, we're proud to announce a new pillar, managed security, that brings together all of the capabilities that you need to secure your low-code apps, agents, and automations. We are also proud to announce managed operations, which helps you operate all of these low-code assets as well. And as a part of this, managed environments is now evolving into managed governance, better representing those governance capabilities. At the end of the day, our goal is to see to it that the Power Platform provides you with all of the managed capabilities that you need to scale adoption, as well as reduce risk within your enterprise. And the thing is, this is not just a marketing exercise, okay? Every one of these capabilities has an experience within the Power Platform Admin Center, which has a new look and a new experience as of today. And so we'll walk through those together. To start us off, we're going to dig into our experiences around managed security, and I'd like to hand things to Shawn.
Great, thanks a lot, Ryan. Well, I think it's safe to say that when it comes to security, the landscape is changing quickly. From 2021 to 2023, we saw an over 70% increase in the number of reported data breaches. And those data breaches, unfortunately, impacted over 300 million people in that same year. At the same time as we're seeing these unprecedented levels of cyber threat, we're also seeing unprecedented opportunity when it comes to the promise of generative AI to help organizations transform business processes. And as you saw from the keynote this morning, we're seeing organizations across every industry take advantage of AI to begin to reimagine their businesses. In this context, governments and regulatory agencies are quickly changing their rules. That's making it very difficult for those of us who are trying to implement these new technologies to adapt and make sure we remain compliant. So in that context, we get a lot of questions from you. We get a lot of questions from your security teams and your chief security officers about how we protect your data in the platform. Ultimately, these questions boil down to one key question, which is how we allow you to continue to innovate while at the same time enabling you to manage risk. And so to do that, our approach to securing the platform is a shared responsibility model. Back in the days of on-premises development, companies were responsible for securing all aspects of their technology stack, all the way from the hardware and the data center physical security, all the way up to the infrastructure and the application layer. As service providers like ourselves and others began to introduce different delivery models for IT services, the model began to change to one of shared responsibility between the service provider and the customer to ensure security. So how do we achieve that with the Power Platform? Well, we've architected the Power Platform as a SaaS application. And what that means is that Microsoft is actually responsible for securing those bottom layers of the stack that you see here on this chart. The way that we do that is by building on a secure foundation, and that foundation is offered in Azure. Azure provides many benefits from a security perspective. It has a global network that every day defends over us and our infrastructure for our customers from over 1,700 distributed denial of service attacks. It offers a series of best-in-class PaaS services like identity management, key management, and so forth that we can build on in the Power Platform so that we don't have to keep rebuilding those technologies ourselves, and we can always take advantage of the latest innovations in those spaces. The second part of our security approach is to ensure that we provide you, the customer, with a comprehensive set of governance and security controls so that you can secure the layers of the platform that you're responsible for as well. So in that vein, we've invested heavily in those controls over the past couple of years, and as Ryan mentioned, we're excited today to introduce a new offering called Power Platform Managed Security. Power Platform Managed Security builds on the foundation provided by Microsoft's security portfolio of products, Azure and M365, and augments it with a set of capabilities specifically designed to allow you to secure your assets and data on the Power Platform. Managed security includes a number of different areas of value. First of all, security posture management. We hear from a lot of you that this is maybe the biggest challenge, is that it's great to have a number of controls, but it's unhelpful if I don't know how those controls impact me and my tenant and where I should get started. And that's what we're planning to provide. When it comes to data protection and privacy, we go beyond standard encryption, which the platform provides both at rest and in transit, and offer additional capabilities like customer managed keys, where you can actually manage your own encryption keys so that no one can get access to it, even Microsoft. We also provide capabilities like integration with Microsoft Purview. Purview allows you to scan all the data assets that you have on the platform to identify potentially sensitive data, things like personal identifiable information, social security numbers, credit cards, and so forth. All of that can be wired up to Dataverse to understand what's there. From an identity and access management perspective, we allow you to enable the fundamental security principle of least privilege access, ensuring that only users who deserve or need access to the data can get access to it when they need it. And that includes capabilities like privileged access management, so that privileged users like admins don't require standard access to the data on the platform. They can actually elevate themselves only when needed for limited times. From a compliance perspective, we offer comprehensive audit with Dataverse, where every interaction with your data in Dataverse can be set up for audit purposes. And we offer capabilities like Lockbox to ensure that anytime a Microsoft support person needs access to information in your tenant, they can do that through a formalized process that's only approved by designated members of your organization. And that entire process is actually logged, again, and tracked for compliance purposes. Now, with security, you can do everything right to protect hackers from getting into your infrastructure. But as we all know, sometimes things happen. And it's important to also maintain a posture of assuming breach, meaning that you assume that hackers are already in your tenant. And in that context, threat protection becomes very essential. We've worked with the Sentinel team to integrate with the Power Platform. They can now collect thousands of signals from across your Power Platform deployments and analyze them for potential risk profiles. Things like a mass deletion of applications or a mass deletion of data by Power Apps. That can all be tracked and audited with Sentinel. And that's something possible today. So bringing all these capabilities together, we know there's a lot. And one of the points of feedback we've heard from you is that it can get complicated very quickly. So to help simplify that journey, we've created a new experience in the Power Platform Admin Center called Security Hub. And I'd love to show you a demo of how that works right now. All right. Okay. All right, so this is the Power Platform Admin Center. Our journey into Security Hub actually begins on the home page, where you can get a quick assessment of the security posture of your tenant. And that's done by something called the Security Score. The Security Score compiles all the best practices recommendations that we have. We look at the configuration of your tenant, and then we evaluate how you're doing. And as you can see in this case, we have a lot of room for improvement. So let's go and see what we can do to improve. So let me go to click on Take Action, and I'll flip to our next tab to speed it up. There we go. So within the Security Hub itself, you can get more information on what is going into that score, how it's being calculated, so you can get details about how it's evaluated. You can also scroll down and see a set of recommendations for how to improve your score. There's one here called Turn on Tenant Isolation, which will improve us a little bit. So let me go ahead and click on that. All these settings are directly accessible from Security Hub, so you don't need to go anywhere in the Power Platform Admin Center to be able to access them. I'll go ahead and restrict cross-tenant connections. This is a feature that we provide where if you're not in an organization that's using many tenants, you can restrict cross-tenant access, save that off. And if all goes well, we should see our score improve in just a second. There we go. We went up from 20 to 27%. So we're making progress. This is great. So Security Hub contains all the features that we talked about in managed security all in one place, organized by category: network security, access control, threat detection, compliance, and so forth. Again, our goal here is to make this all easy for you to access directly from one interface in the environment. So jumping back. All right. Give me one sec, go back to our main computer here. Okay, good. All right, so to highlight a couple of the capabilities of managed security, first of all, advanced connector policies. How many folks are using DLP policies today? Okay, a couple, great. So as you know, the Power Platform is a very powerful platform. It allows you to connect to thousands of different types of data sources. Governing access to those data sources is critical. We've shipped a technology previously called DLP that allows you to control which connectors can and can't be used from a given environment. Advanced connector policies enhances that capability in a number of different ways. First, instead of just setting connector policies on a single environment level, you can now set connector policies on environment groups. This allows organizations who are scaling from tens to hundreds to thousands of environments to better manage these connectors at scale. Secondly, it makes configuring connector access a lot easier. We've gone away from the notion of having business and non-business connectors to a very simple model. Either a connector is blocked or it's not blocked. I see some smiles in the audience and some nodding. Okay, cheers there, good. Thirdly, gets better. Previously, connectors that were not blockable before. Things like connecting to Office data are now blockable with advanced connector policies as well, which has been a back ask we've heard from many of you as well. So great to see that too. So all in all, we hope advanced connector policies is going to make your lives a lot easier when it comes to connector management and governance. Another key capability that we're introducing is guest access. After the pandemic, a lot of organizations found themselves collaborating with external companies in different ways. That resulted in a lot of guests being invited to enter tenants and getting access to more resources than their IT teams originally realized or thought was appropriate. To make guest access a lot easier in the Power Platform, we now have a simple control that can be applied at the environment level that allows you to simply block guest access to any resources in the Power Platform, thereby mitigating the risk of potentially oversharing assets like apps and flows and so forth with those guests. So, that's great. Good. So finally, another great feature we want to call out, and this is one of the top requested features we heard from some of our most security-sensitive customers, banks, healthcare institutions, government, and so forth, and that is support for virtual networks. So the Power Platform allows you to connect to resources that exist within your own network, whether in the cloud or on premises, and it does so today via data gateways. So how many folks have configured a data gateway? Great. How many folks want to come up here and share how much fun it was? Not so many, not so many people, okay. Because it's not, and this is part of the feedback we heard from you, right? It's very difficult, very costly and time consuming to set up and maintain over time. So in response to requests from the network security teams at the top, most security sensitive customers, we've now built support for Power Platform VNet. And what that allows you to do is run Power Platform connectors and Dataverse plugins in the context of your own configured network, so that any outbound calls coming from those connectors or plugins go over your network infrastructure, not over the internet or anywhere else. And so this also works for on-premises via ExpressRoute. You can connect up that as well. So we are pleased to announce today that we now have GA support for the first set of connectors available under this model. We have more connectors coming down the pipeline, and again, we also support Dataverse plugins right now today. Companies like Toyota are already using this technology today in their infrastructure. Toyota recently ran a hackathon where they were looking to explore how they could leverage generative AI to help with their business challenges. One of the winning projects for that hackathon was a conversational AI agent that reasoned over Toyota's massive base of knowledge of automotive manufacturing techniques to help their workers. Now, as that hackathon team wanted to build this, they realized that all those resources they wanted to reason over were sitting within Toyota's firewall. And so as they tried to move this to production, their network security team said, well, you have to conform to our policies. They didn't want to go through the challenge of setting up a lot of gateways. They'd have challenges with that in the past. And so they were able to leverage Power Platform VNet to very easily set up a connection between their conversational AI agent and the resources running within the context of Toyota's firewall. This has been a great benefit to Toyota so far. They're seeing great benefits in terms of knowledge sharing. They've already saved 3,000 hours of time, they estimate. It's still early for them, and they're just getting started. So in addition to the, good job, thank you, Toto. So in addition to the capabilities we talked about with managed security, we are also having additional resources as well. We have an end-to-end security white paper, we have a security presentation recorded online, and we have a well-architected framework which mirrors what we published years ago with Azure Well Architected, except applies best practices around reliability, security, and so forth to the Power Platform. We encourage you to check it out. So in addition to security, which is number one, we also want to make sure that you can productively scale your governance as you scale up your use of the Power Platform. And to talk more about that, I'll turn it back to Ryan.
Awesome, thanks so much, Shawn. And so what we see is many times, many of our folks in the CIO's office, they're trying to figure out how do they balance and boost innovation while also making sure that they can control and manage reduce governance risk. Do things like, how do I make sure that the solutions people build within my organization follow my organizational guidelines? How do I ensure that I'm generating the expected ROI? How do I make sure I have visibility and insight into what's going on within my environments? And how can I communicate and help drive healthy, broad adoption of low code in my organization? And to help with this, we are introducing managed governance, where to help you manage at scale, we have capabilities like environment groups, environment rules. To help you with your environment strategy, by helping place new makers into their own personal developer environments, we have environment routing. To help you see things that perhaps are not in the best of health, we have things like the Action Center, as well as recommendations to provide you with opinionated steps that you can take to improve your overall governance posture. We provide you with greater visibility over what's going on with your tenant through the new inventory service. How many of you have deployed the inventory solution as a part of the Center of Excellence Starter Kit? Okay. How many of you had the time card app go down and you couldn't find it? Okay, the rest of you just aren't being honest. I'm kidding. And then, of course, also have great control over how you manage licenses, add-ons, capacity. And this is especially important as we live in this new world of data and AI. And so, to show you how these things manifest in the product, we have the Copilot Hub for agent administration, helping you understand generative AI technology, helping you understand what is new from a capabilities perspective, helping you configure these things to roll them out across your organization, and then provide you with visibility in how they are being used. We also have a set of great capabilities, once again, around how you can use environment rules and environment groups to use policy to manage across large number of environments, helping you run more efficiently. And of course, we have the new inventory solution that helps you locate apps, agents, or automations across any environment within your tenant with just a few clicks, no COE required. And then finally, to maximize ROI, we provide you with the licensing hub so that you can effectively manage both your user licenses as well as your capacity licenses within your tenant. And to show you what this looks like, I'm going to pull up the Copilot Hub in the new Power Platform Admin Center. You can see here we can learn how Copilot works, we can prepare for our deployment, we can learn and understand what's new because there are constantly new capabilities shipping for Copilot. We can view our usage of these different capabilities by product. We can also configure each of these different capabilities environment by environment so that we can safely deploy them across our enterprise. And then finally, we can also see how various content moderation filters are being applied to ensure that AI is being used responsibly. So that's the Copilot Hub. Next, I would like to show you our experience for managing your environment groups and rules. Now, of course, I can go through here, I can configure environment routing, I can turn it on or off, I can specify whether this applies to all makers or new makers, and I can specify what environment group into which all of these environments are provisioned. Now, the benefit of this is that it sees to it that all of the rules get stamped onto that environment as soon as it's created, and environment admins cannot override those settings. And then, of course, you can also configure what security group is going to be environment routed. Now, if I go into one of my environment groups, we'll take the, how about the SitDev environment group? Here, we see a broad set of rules that can be configured. Once again, these get stamped onto every environment within the group. They cannot be overridden by environment admins. And so, I'll highlight and show the advanced data policies that Shawn talked to us about a moment ago. Here you can see the list of connectors. There is no business, non-business, or none-ya business in here. In addition, I can add connectors, or if I don't know what 𝗲𝗀𝗃 is, so I can remove that, and that's that. Okay, so super scalable way to manage data policies in line with how you manage your environments through groups today. Beyond that, as I mentioned earlier, finding apps has sometimes been a challenge, or agents, when you're looking across large numbers of environments. And so if, for example, I quickly wanted to find out how many agents are there within my default environment, there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Much simpler, much faster than that would have been in the past. Similarly, if I want to find, oh gosh, like I have an app in here about like doing migrations because I'm a bird. There we go, the Migrate Me app. I can find the migration app very easily, okay? So once again, the idea being super simple, super easy to find my resources and manage them in aggregate across all of my environments. I'd like to hand things to Shawn to demo the licensing hub.
Great. Thanks, Brad. So our goal with licensing is to try to make licensing a bit simpler. We've heard feedback from some of you that sometimes it's complicated. That got some laughs.
That's the best joke of the session.
But really our goal is to help you manage the licenses that you have and also help you optimize your investment in the platform. And so we've rebuilt this licensing hub to bring together all user licenses and capacity licenses for the platform in a single place. Let's drill into the new experience we have for capacity licenses. And so with Dataverse, which is one of our capacities that we have in the platform, we now have the ability for you to look and see at an environment level about which environments are in overage. And that introduces another capability we now have, which is the ability to allocate a certain amount of storage from your environment level, your tenant level pool to individual environments. So let's take an example of how to look at that now. So I'll click on Manage Capacity. I'll pull up my environment list. I'm going to search for an environment I created earlier. It's my finance environment. Search for that. Here we go. So here we see the ability to allocate Dataverse capacity to this environment. We're using about 1,100 megabytes right now. Let's allocate 1,200 a file. There we go. Now, the question now comes up, what happens when this amount is reached? Well, a couple of things. One is we can opt to send a notification when we're within a certain percentage of reaching that target. That notification can go to the Power Platform admin or the individual environment admin, and they could take whatever appropriate action is for their tenant. They may choose to allocate more capacity or delete some resources and so forth. Now, the other thing you can do, though, is opt to bill to a pay-as-you-go plan. And this pay-as-you-go plan is a connection to an Azure subscription. Now, the big benefit here is that for organizations that wish to do cost sharing or cost allocation across different departments, they can now leverage different Azure subscriptions for different departments and bill those charges for that capacity back to the appropriate Azure subscription. This capability is used very frequently in Azure today. We're now bringing it to the Power Platform. So I can choose a billing plan here. This is a test one here. And now I can set that up, and it will go ahead and bill any overages above that allocated capacity to that Azure subscription. So that simplifies the task of cost allocation when it comes to our capacities. This approach works not only with Dataverse, it's going to work with different types of capacities in the Power Platform as well, such as Copilot Studio messages. And so here we can see a time-based view of our usage of Copilot Studio messages over time against our entitlements. We can see where we've gone into overage and then build to pay-as-you-go. We can also do drill downs at an environment level and drill downs at a Copilot level as well. So if you have a bunch of different Copilots in a given environment, you can see exactly how many messages those respective Copilots have consumed. So again, with Licensing Hub, we're trying to make things simpler for you, and we're trying to make it possible for you to optimize your investment in the platform.
Awesome, thank you, Shawn. And so now we'll move into one of the final stanzas of our discussion today. We talked about managed operations, right? When we talk to our operations directors and some of our architects as well, they ask us questions like, how do I control, approve, oversee, audit changes to my applications that are running in production? How can I quickly identify, detect, and remediate issues that are running there? How do I maintain business continuity? How can I support and deal with changes in load? And so to help with these things, today we are happy and proud to announce managed operations so that you can test, validate, integrate with source control, have great application lifecycle management, rich monitoring, as well as extended backup retention capabilities. And so to look at what this looks like, the next click down, when we think about application lifecycle management, this builds upon the existing capabilities that we have with pipelines. It also integrates deeply with capabilities that we have with native source control integration, as well as solution checker and test engine to make sure that the capabilities that you are building are of high quality. We provide greater observability, both in terms of our monitoring hub, which provides advanced diagnostics directly within the product, but also integration with tools that you likely already use in Azure, like Application Insights. And then we provide a broad set of data resilience capabilities as well, including things like long-term retention or recycle bin. And so if we think about what this looks like within our product, one of the things that we found specifically around deployment and monitoring experiences is in many cases, the maker is deeply involved in these processes. So these particular hubs or experiences show up not only in the Power Platform Admin Center, but they also show up in our maker portals. And so here you can see this is where makers can submit and oversee their deployments, because how many of you have ever built an app and needed to wait for somebody else to approve it? Okay. And then similarly, how many of you are the admin where someone's waiting on you to approve the apps, and so we provided you with an experience for that directly within the Power Platform Admin Center. And then when we think about monitoring and observability, we have the monitoring hub both directly within the maker experience, because in most cases, the maker is best suited to take the actions needed to improve the health of the app. And we provide these views through the Power Platform Admin Center as well, so that admins have a view of operational health across the enterprise. So let's take a look at what this looks like in the product. Here I'm within my maker portal, and so here we can see a number of different solutions that exist within my environment. I will select the event solution because, hey, it's a busy event week, and I can choose to deploy that using pipelines like I do today. I can also go within the deployment hub, and here I am able to see the status of all my deployments that are ongoing. I can see I have a few deployments which have failed. I can also see that I have active deployments, and in this case, we can see that that deployment is awaiting approval. I also have my deployment history as well, so that as a maker, all the things that I've submitted to deploy more broadly, I have insight to them from a single place. Now, from an admin perspective, I now have a single pane of glass to see all of the applications that are awaiting my approval. Here we can see I have 9 apps that are pending my approval, and if I select this one right here, what we'll see is I get all of the information that is needed for me to choose whether or not I should approve this deployment. Now, an important note here, we have chosen to use the power of Copilot to generate descriptions of these applications so that you understand what is in the deployment that you're approving. How many of us have deployed an app without knowing what's in it? Okay, yes, some raised your hand, some laughed, and the rest of you, I won't say. Now, let's take a look at what monitoring experiences look like within our maker's experience as well. So here I have an overview of all my apps, and what we can see is I have one app in particular that is failing to launch reliably. So if I go in and I drill into the facilities maintenance request app, we'll see that I have a set of metrics that include things like my app open success rate, as well as performance characteristics of my app. Now, given that my app open success rate is not great, we can see right here that many of these sessions are ending because users don't have permissions to launch the app that they're trying to open. And so we're trying to be very, very prescriptive around what people can do to improve the health of their apps, as opposed to just saying, it's not opening reliably. Okay? Now, similarly, if I go to the Power Platform Admin Center, we can see that I have visibility into this across multiple environments. And if I drill in, what I will see, I can click into that same facilities maintenance request app, and I have those exact same insights available to me right here. So once again, really trying to allow the maker and the admin to work very closely together so that they can improve the overall health of applications. So that's our overview of managed operations. And so now what I'd love to do, it's one thing for us to talk about all of these capabilities. It's another thing for us to show you what they look like. And so to do that, I'd like to invite Lianne on stage. Sorry, I have a problem with my clicker. It keeps moving. Anyway, Lianne runs Microsoft Digital and our Power Platform practice. I'd like to hand things over to you.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm proud of myself for not tripping while going up those stairs. As Ryan said, I am from Microsoft Digital, which is a part of our internal IT team at Microsoft. So I know slightly counterintuitive, but me and my team are customers of the Power Platform as well, as we are the ones managing it for our corporate tenant. So what does that mean? My team, as the admins, we're the ones doing all of our governance and security strategy planning, any feature testing, enablement, adoption planning if needed, user support, and then at times also sometimes building custom tooling and solutions to further extend the product's capabilities. It's all about finding that right balance of empowering Microsoft employees to use Power Platform and use it to meet their needs, while having the right guardrails in place to make sure they're doing that safely. So our tenant is massive. I think we still have the largest tenant in the world. We just hit 55,000 environments, and we're seeing a growth rate of about 1,000 environments per week, which is super fun, with hundreds of thousands of different resources spread out across those environments. So super scalable governance and security is essential for us to be able to do our jobs as tenant administrators. So I could spend days talking to you about how we do this at Microsoft. I only have a couple minutes, so I'll try to hit the highlights. But all of the stuff you heard today from Shawn and Ryan for managed operations, managed security, and managed governance is making my job a whole lot easier. One of the first things we're doing is leveraging environment routing, which you heard Ryan and Shawn talk about today. So we are trying to move people away from using broadly shared environments in our tenant and instead shift towards all environments being owned by an individual or by a specific team. So we've enabled environment routing so that anyone that tries to go build in the default environment, which is a big, broad shared environment, instead gets dropped into their own personal developer environments. Another big component of our governance strategy is making sure that environments are grouped based on their usage and business scenarios, and then applying rule sets that are accurately scoped to how those environments are being used. So we have three main buckets, three main environment groups in our tenant. The first one is personal productivity. This is people building things for them and themselves alone. This is built in personal developer environments via that automated routing that I just talked about, or people can go self-provision these from the Power Platform Admin Center. We have a rule applied that these can only be one owner. You cannot share the resources in this. These environment types are solely for personal use. Then our second environment group is our team collaboration scenario. So this is people building within Dataverse for Teams environments if they are building a workflow or a solution that is going to be used by just their team. Because these are tied to an M365 group, that helps with the access management and sensitivity labeling part of the situation. And then last but not least, we have the enterprise development scenario. So this is teams building products or applications that are going to be shared or published for broader use. These need to be built in sandbox or production environments, sandbox environments being for any pre-production work, so dev and test, and then production environments just for your completed managed solution. Because these are on the higher end of the risk spectrum, these environment types do have a request process for provisioning, and they have some more rigorous compliance reviews and an attestation-based lifecycle management tied to them. And that is how we are using environment groups and rules in our tenant. Super excited to implement all the stuff that we learned today, but I'll give it back to Ryan and Shawn.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lianne.
So Ryan, one of the things I wanted to share with folks is that Microsoft is a very tough customer. Lianne is a very tough customer, and definitely Microsoft being one of the biggest targets in the world from a security perspective, this team pushes us hard and has a seat at the table with us every time we're coming up with like a new approach to how we can better secure the tenant and how we can better help them scale. And so we really appreciate the collaboration, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lianne. And so that concludes our lap of managed security, managed governance, and managed operations. Throughout the rest of this week, please continue to engage with us, whether that's through the Power AMA that we have running right now, whether that is through additional theater sessions that we have this week or additional breakout sessions. Please let us know how we can see to it that the Power Platform is your platform for those 10,000 little apps and then those 10 massive apps that you have within your organization. Thank you so much, and have a great day.